going to be looking at WYSIWYG editors. WYSIWYG is an acronym standing for What You See is What You Get. And in contrast to descriptive codes or markup editors, you get an immediate way to see the results of your changes. So as we make changes, we can see the results immediately, and then once we save our page, we can see the changes live. Mercury was my go-to editor back in Rails 3, however, it's no longer really maintained, so I don't rely on it anymore. CK Editor is probably one of the most full-featured and best ones out there. However, I do find their API a little bit cumbersome, and having to rely on some extra gems for handling file upload just really kind of turned me off on it. I have used it in recent projects, and I do really think it's a great editor, but today I wanted to cover a different editor. Another editor that I really liked is called Frola. It is a really beautiful and clean editor, however, it's not a free option, so be prepared to spend at least $100 for a license. However, today we're going to be looking at Summernote. I recently discovered about Summernote and I've been very impressed with it. It's very easy to use, easy to integrate into your Rails application, and it just works. So to get started, add Summernote-Rails to your gem file. Be sure to bundle and restart your Rails application. And in your application JavaScript file, require Summernote. And then your application CSS file, you can import Summernote. Keep in mind that Summernote doesn't require you to use Bootstrap. And if you're using Simpleform, you can simply just add in as Summernote. And this will simply just add in a data provider of Summernote. And then in your CoffeeScript, we can loop through each one of these data provider Summernotes, and then we can call this.Summernote, and then we can pass in any options that we want. If you're using Turbolinks, then you'll notice that when you refresh a page that has the editor on it, it'll display. However, if you navigate away and come back, then the editor disappears. So what we're going to do is just create a ready function, and this will allow us to, whenever the page is ready or the page loads from Turbolinks, then it'll run this and then add in the editor. So refreshing your page, you now have a fully functional editor. Next, we're going to look at uploading pictures. You do have the option to select from a URL or from your computer. So if we select to upload an image and then save this, back on the show page, you'll see that the image has uploaded. However, I want to inspect the element of this picture because I have not set up any kind of uploading yet. And you'll see that it is simply a base 64. That means that this image is being stored within our database. While that's not a horrible thing in certain cases, it's definitely something that you want to avoid in practice. So we'll use Refile to upload our images that we post into Summernote. And you can check out episode 13 to see the basics of Refile and how to upload images. We'll then create a model, and I'm just calling my model image, and I'm passing in a image ID along with the associated meta tags. And then back in our CoffeeScript file, when we call Summernote, we want to make a callback, so whenever the image is uploaded or selected, then we're sending this to Refile. So we're just going to have a callback, and on the action on image upload, we're going to create this function send file, and we're passing in our Summernote object, and we're passing in the file. We then create our send file function, and it'll look something like this, where we're calling the Summernote object that, and then we have our file. We're creating a new form. We're appending to the form our image, and keep in mind this is the model name and this is the attribute name, and then we're passing in the file for the value. We're then making a AJAX request, and we're making a post to images. So we'll have to create our images controller, and then on success, when the image is successful, then we're creating a image node here, and then we're passing in the source of the image node to a data URL, and we'll set what this value is in our controller. And then on that, which is the Summernote object, we're calling the insert node function, and we're passing in our image. So it's pretty standard in our create action. We're creating the image and saving it, and then we're responding to the JSON request, sending the URL to the refile.attachment URL. Typically in your view, you will simply just have attachment URL. However, because we are calling this within our controller, you will need to preface it with refile. And then we're specifying our record and then the image attribute. So now when we select our image to upload and we save it, we can now inspect this. And you'll see that it's running from the attachment store. It has successfully uploaded and referenced it to refile. And in our Rails log, we can see where the post occurred on the image controller controller's create action, and it selected the image and it inserted it into the images table. And notice also when we come back into our article and once we save it, it already knows that URL because that was passed back in from the AJAX request that we received when the image was uploaded, and it just inserted the node into our page, and this way we don't have to store the image within our database. So back in our CoffeeScript file, we do want to address another issue. Once a user has uploaded an image, they may want to delete it, and when they delete it, we want to remove it from the server. So we can create another callback, and that is on the media delete. So our delete file function will look something like this, where we're taking our file ID, we're making an AJAX request with a method of delete, and we're passing in the URL, images, and then the file ID. And in order to get that file ID, we do need to add another attribute to our node, and we'll just call this ID. And then we're going to pass in the data.imageID, and this is going to come from the create action in our images controller. Don't forget to revisit your routes file and make sure that you've set a destroy action on your images. So back in our images controller under the create action, we're going to want to pass in another key here called image ID, and we're just setting this to the image ID. Notice that we are calling the image ID, which is the hash created by refile, so we can then reference it later. And then we can create our destroy action, which we're just finding the image, and we are having to find it by the image ID since that's what we're passing and saving. And then we can destroy the image. So then we can just respond back to the AJAX request with a JavaScript status OK. This doesn't really matter. However, you can create some kind of failsafe or failback if this is not successful. And you will have to re-upload your images because we will need that ID attribute set. So now when we remove our image, it removes it, but then it should also delete it from the computer, and it should no longer be there. And then in our log file, we can see where that image was deleted. So be sure to check out Summernote's documentation because they do have some additional features that we did not discuss in this episode. For example, you can set your own custom toolbar, and they also have a series of different callbacks that you can span your application with, as well as the option for custom buttons. And that's all for this episode. Thank you for watching.